established rich coming right back at you. By the time this footage came out on Jim Jones, most people were not shocked. They wasn't confused either. They was just watching another piece fall into place. Another moment that matched a pattern they've been seeing for years. Because Jim Jones been talking like a boss for a long time. But a lot of those years, the talk never really matched the action. Not completely, not consistently. This ain't about one moment. This is about a collection of moments. From the way he talked about certain people, to the way certain situations never quite made sense. People been watching close and noticing gaps. Because there's a difference between talking powerful and actually having power. And over time, people learn how to tell the difference. This week, they got another look at a difference.
He cut the lights on. You're not supposed to. You heard Jim? Huh? He cut the lights off. What's up? What happened? Yeah, I'm good. No, it's mine. It's my property. All right? You gotta talk and talk somebody.
Look, that right there didn't start with doubt. That right there just added to the doubt that was already there. It didn't create questions. It answered questions people have been having. Because when a man is really in position, he don't have to force his way into nothing. He don't have to fight for access to what's his. Access is automatic when ownership is real. And people understand that without anybody having to explain it. That's why this moment hit the way it did. Not because it was new, but because it was familiar. It matched the story people were already putting together in their mind. Hip-hop has always been a place where image can live longer than reality. As long as people don't see behind the curtain. As long as people don't see the moments that don't fit the story. But once they do, everything starts connecting. This was one of those moments. One of those moments that filled in a blank. And the person who made sure everybody saw it was 50 Cent. He didn't have to explain nothing. He just put the video out and let people put their own process on it. Because 50 knows something most people don't fully understand. People trust what they see more than what they hear. You can say anything, but people believe what they see. And what they saw didn't look like a man fully in control of his space. It looked like somebody trying to get back in position. There ain't no insult. That's just how it looked. An image is built on how things look, not how they get explained afterwards. Because once people see you in a certain position, that image stays with them. They don't forget. They add it to everything else they've been seeing over time. And that's how perception evolves, not through the moment, through patterns. Patterns people see without even talking about it out loud. Patterns people feel without needing confirmation. And this was another one of those pattern moments. Not everybody said it out loud before, but a lot of people was thinking it. And now they got another visual to add to that feeling. Another visual that makes certain things harder to deny. This is what the camera era does. It don't create truth. It reveals it. It documents it. It freezes moments that used to disappear. And this was one of those moments people are going to remember forever. Not because it was shocking, but because it was telling. It said more without saying anything. And after people saw that door moment, the internet did what it always does. It started looking for more dirt. Because in 2026, nothing exists in isolation. Everything is connected to something else. And when one moment raises questions, people start looking for the structure behind it. They start asking who really had control of that space. Not the image of control, the actual controller. That's when another piece entered the conversation. Not words, not rumors, a phone call. A conversation that gave context without trying to give context.
And he's been saying this for since October. And he keeps trying to build it, but he won't sign the lease. He's like, I don't like these terms. I want 6 months of build out and ridiculous bullshit. We also have a partnership agreement where half of what he's building now, his media, belongs to us. But he won't tell us how much he's making and doing all these things. So half of the content he's creating, if you want to buy that too, I'll sell you half the company. He's not a business. He's insane. To me, it's worth very little to nothing. But if it works out for you, I just throw that in as a sweetener. Okay? So what I'm trying to say is he signed a lease with me. Right now he owes, I'm going to say in a short way, at least $80,000, if not $180,000.
That right there shifted the energy completely. Because now people wasn't just looking at the moment. They were looking at the possibility of a structure problem. And structure is everything when you claim to be a boss. Anybody can act like they in control, but control shows itself through stability. Control shows itself through access. Control shows itself through ownership that don't get questioned. When structure is solid, there is no confusion about who is running what. The environment naturally responds to you. That's why this moment hit different than just regular internet drama, because it don't feel like drama. It feels like an exposing of how thin the line can be between reality and image. Hip-hop has always been a place where image can run ahead of structure. As long as nobody checks the foundation, the image can live forever. But once the foundation gets examined, everything else starts looking different. And 50 understands that better than most people in the game. He don't attack image directly. He attacks what the image is standing on. He attacks the structure, because once the structure looks weak, the image collapses on its own without him having to say much. That's what makes his move so effective. He don't need to convince people of nothing. He just shows them enough to let them draw their own conclusions. And people trust their own conclusions more than any argument. This ain't about liking 50 Cent. This is about understanding how power works in this era. Power today ain't just money. Power today is information. Power today is timing. Power today is knowing when to show something and when to hold it. Because this footage ain't just appear randomly. It appeared when it will have the most impact. That's what made this move surgical. And when something is calculated like that, it usually means it's part of a bigger story. A story that's been building over time, not created in one day. This is what people miss when they only look at the surface. They think it's about that one moment. It's never about one moment. It's about the patterns those moments create, no matter how much time go by. This is the difference between reputation and structure. Reputation can exist without structure for a long time, but structure always reveals itself eventually, one way or another. And when it does, people start reevaluating everything they believed in before. Not because they want to, but because they have to. This moment forced that reevaluation, not with words, with visuals, with reality. And reality is the one thing image can't argue with. Reality don't negotiate. Reality just exists, and people adjust their belief accordingly. This is where perception stops being controlled and starts being decided by what people see for themselves. Not what they told, not what they assumed, what they know. And what they know changes everything. The hardest thing for people to accept is not failure, it's exposure. Failure can be explained. Exposure can't be undone, because failure still leaves room for the image to survive. Exposure can change how people see the image itself. And hip-hop been running on image for decades. Image of money, image of power, image of control. But image only works when reality don't interrupt it. Reality don't care how long you've been presenting yourself in a certain way. Reality don't care how many interviews you did. Reality don't care how many times you said you was the boss. Reality only cares about what can be verified, what can be seen. And when people see something that don't match the image, they reevaluate everything about you. Not because they want to disrespect you, but because their instincts tell them something different about you now. You ain't what you acting like. Instincts don't lie to people. Instinct is what people trust when words stop making sense. And instinct is what guides perception moving forward. This is why some people protect their structure quietly. They don't need to talk about it constantly. They don't need to prove it publicly. They don't need to defend it, because structure speaks for itself. Structure don't require performance. Image requires performance. Structure requires consistency. And over time, consistency always reveals the real difference. Not through announcements, through moments. Moments people remember. Moments people study. Moments people add to the story they've been watching unfold for years. This was one of those moments. Not the first, not the last. Just another piece in a story people been watching closely. A story about the gap between image and structure. Because image can be created fast. Structure takes time to build. Image can be maintained through presentation. Structure can only be maintained through real control. And control don't show itself through words. Control shows itself through stability. Stability don't need to announce itself. It just exists. This is why moments like this matter more than people realize. Not because of drama, but because of what they reveal. They reveal the difference between what people believe and what actually exists. And once people see the difference clearly, their perception changes permanently. This is the camera era. Nothing stays hidden forever. Nothing stays protected forever. Everything eventually comes to the light. And when it does, people adjust accordingly. Not based on loyalty, based on reality. Reality is the final authority in every story. Reality is the final voice people trust. Not the loudest voice, the truest voice. And moments like this remind everybody that image and structure are not the same thing. They ain't never been the same thing. And the people who last the longest are the ones who put structure first and let image follow that, not the other way around. Because image without structure always gets tested eventually. And when it gets tested, people see what was really there the whole time. Not what they were told, but what actually existed. And once people see that clearly, they move different, they listen different, they believe different, and they never look at that image the same way again. But hey, that's just my opinion. What's yours? Like, comment, subscribe, Established Rich. I'll be back with another one. Peace.